Time once again for the Kaufman Corner podcast with you as always, David Lesky from Inside the Crown. Fresh edition should be in your mailbox right now. Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, of course, former Royals outfielder. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. As we talk some Royals baseball, the 40-man coming into view. We are seeing what the Royals have, adding Ben Kudrna, and you'd think after 4 years in the organization, I'd have a clue. Steven Zubac also to the 40, but declining players like former first-rounders Gavin Cross, Frank Mozzicato. Did they get it right on their 40-man moves? The Royals drafts, we might kind of look back with the addition or with the subtraction of a couple of more first-rounders of the Dayton Moore draft era. What a journey it was. Kris Bubic's name continues to come up in trade rumors. He seems to be the centerpiece of Royals talks. Finally, I noticed David Lesky could cross off Taylor Ward off his trade targets this morning because he's finally not going to be a Royal after chasing him seemingly for a couple of years. Did they miss the boat on that? Who do they target? Plus, the Royals have handed out their team awards. We're breaking it down right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Thursday. Remember, if you're catching us via the podcast, first of all, thank you very much for listening. But also remember that you can be a part of the conversation in the chat room. We go live Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. if you would like to partake. And gentlemen, the 40-man, it's coming into shape. First of all, let's talk about who they kept. They put Ben Kudrna onto the 40-man, so he will not be getting away. That's a local kid that will stay in the mix. And they also kept Zubac. Did they get it right, David, with who they kept on the 40-man?
Yeah, I think those two were. I mean, those two were two that I had targeted. I think they probably should have protected. I was wondering if they would with Zubac just because he had a really rough year. But at the same time, there were people who before last year, before he had injuries and kind of wrecked his whole season, said that he seemed pretty likely to debut in 2025. And so if you felt like he could have debuted before he had some injuries that he was recovered from what I understand, you'd feel like he'd get selected. So it makes sense to protect him from getting selected in the Rule 5. Kudrna, I think that the upside is kind of limited in what he can be. But we talked about this before. You gave Michael Lorenzen $7 million to be a number 5 starter. Even if Kudrna is only a number 5 starter, and I say only because in that way because it's valuable. He'd be a number 5 starter for a 10% of that cost. So I think it makes sense. I like Zubac more upside wise, but obviously, again, he had those struggles this year, so we'll see how he bounces back.
Yeah, the 40-man to me, Les, is always fun because they stress about. Remember, you got to make a move on the 40. If we bring that guy up, we got to make a move on the 40. And I usually look at the 40-man and go like, there are 7 guys. I got no problem cutting here. But it is nice to see the local guy, Ben Kudrna, get this far. And it does seem like he is on track to be a Royal at some point. I think David's point is a good one, Les, about just having a league minimum answer in the rotation. But he's also now got the problem of a lot of starting pitchers in front of him to take that next step. But at least he does take this next step and isn't exposed.
Yeah, I think the Royals have loved Ben Kudrna since they drafted him, and I think rightly so. He showed a lot of promise early. He's had some big games where he's had a lot of strikeouts in the minor leagues. As he's moved up a little bit, the RA gets a little bit bumpy, but he's still pretty young. I mean, he's only going to be 23, so he's got plenty of time. I feel like both him and Zubac are probably destined for the bullpen, at least right now. I mean, anything can change, but I feel like that's their faster shot. I feel like Zubac he's 2 years older, but I feel like he has a little bit better of a shot to get to the big leagues a little bit faster. Both Kudrna and Zubac have about 9 or just over 9 strikeouts per game, but Zobac's walks per 9 innings is only 2.4, which is really good. So his command's a little bit better. If that injury is a bygone thing and it doesn't come back, he probably has a little bit more maturity. But again, I think it's a good pick. If you look at what the Royals really need right now, you know me, what's the one position I want to see? It's outfield. I want a corner outfielder to come to the organization, and there's nobody that would have put on the 40-man that could have answered that question. So I think they got it right. There could have been a couple other choices, but I think overall they nailed it, and I think these guys are going to come in as more relievers, at least at first.
Yeah, and if Ben Kudrna was not from Kansas City, would this move have been made, David?
The fact that I'm pausing says maybe not, but I do think it would have, because if you look at like what he did in 2024, he was very good in A ball, got promoted or high A, got promoted to double A and struggled. So he gets a chance at double A and he was much better. He not great, but nine strikeouts per 9, 3 walks per 9. It's a solid guy. 88 hits in 94 innings. It works. He gets promoted to AAA, and he really struggled. Now, small sample, it might have evened out over time, but he did walk 17 and struck out 10. So it's a pretty rough number. But he's been a guy who has shown he's going to struggle to start a level and then settle in. And I think that with what he did in double A and the way he rebounded and the way he did that also, I believe let me look real quick, because I think I'm right here, but I think he struggled a little bit to start at high A as well. Yeah, he did. He had a 5.36 ERA when he got bumped to high A in 23. Then he started there in 24 and had a 3.5 ERA. They got him bumped to double A, where again he struggled, and then he started 25. Well, I think they see a guy who has a fairly high floor once he settles in, and so I think that's a guy who they didn't want to lose, and so I think he would have been protected either way. I do think it went from like, we're 70% to 100%. I think the local angle bumped it to a sure thing rather than we're probably going to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, like I said, I'm all for the local kid. I think it's great. Love seeing him get promoted, and somebody's got to have that spot. And so if he did get that spot just because he won out on your local, he's not. I think somebody may have taken a shot. I mean, I think it's worthwhile. I think somebody may have taken a shot. I mean, the key, I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was like, yeah, they're like, oh, can you believe it? Frank Mozzicato, we'll get to in a minute. They didn't protect him. Well, I guess that's over with. I'm like, not really, because I don't think anybody's going to put him on the big league roster, right? So to lose him, somebody's got to put him on the big league roster. And if he doesn't stay on the big league roster, he could offer him back to the Royals. The Royals would definitely take him. So they could have gone down that road. I don't think Kudrna's ready for the big leagues just based upon those AAA numbers. I think that may have scared everybody away. But if you're a team like the White Sox or one of the clubs that's a long way away, why not? If you think you finally figured out your pitching coaching and got that figured out, he's a worthwhile effort. And if midway it's not working, all right, we're done. Send him back. Royals got to give us $25,000 back, and we're out of this. So he is about a strikeout per inning, about 9 per 9. He's never really dominated, but he's only 22 years old. And I kind of like what Les said. I think everybody should get a shot in the bullpen with this organization if you've got the control. And that may be his path, and that may be what they're waiting on. They're getting him the innings, letting him work his pitches right now, in the back of their mind thinking all along, everything's going to tick up a notch. See Brad Keller. Okay. Mm-hmm. And can I point out to your point, Les, I think that's one of the great things here is with some depth of starting pitching, everyone who was a starter for the Royals for the entire Dayton Moore era immediately got put in as a starter. And I'll always wonder, like Luke Hochevar, if they had any other, now when Luke Hochevar came up, part of it was Dayton Moore inherited the the minor leagues that didn't have any pitching, but no one ever got bumped to the bullpen. Like if you suck as a starter, you continued to start. Like there was never anybody coming up the back. If nothing else, Kudrna knocking on the door makes everybody else, you have to be sharp because we have another guy coming, right?
Yeah.
And if everybody's good in front of him and there's depth, then now he can go back to the bullpen. And what would it have been if after 1 year Luke Hochevar had been to the bullpen because he ended up being a really good reliever instead of years of giving the organization bad starting pitching, he could have been giving them really good relief pitching, and they'd have been a better organization. That's kind of the hidden gem here. You know, I think your point, Les, is a great one because how about somebody actually have to earn their way along the, you know, on the way and not just be gifted.
Well, just a brief point too. You guys may know more, and we'll get into the non-guys, the non-40-man guys. But if you look at Felix Arande, who was, I think I said his name right, he wasn't protected. But if you look at his record, it's almost the exact same, if not the exact same, as Kudrna. And some of the numbers are similar, except the fact that Arande has like a sub-3 earned run average. I think he's like a 2.7 or something like that. So that makes me wonder. I like Ben Kudrna. I think he is going to play in the big leagues for a long time. But to your point, your question about being a local guy, is that maybe why they did it? I don't think that's why. I think that's just an added benefit. But then when you see Arande, who is very, very similar, except his ERA is lower, it makes you wonder a little bit. So I don't know about the backstory. I think it is good if you have a local guy that you really do believe in. I think that adds to the mystique of the whole thing. So I'm all for that. It's just curious to me when there's a comparable pitcher that they didn't protect.
Yeah, I think it's a great point.
I will say about Arande, and this kind of maybe gets into our next point, but he's 3 months older than Kudrna and at high A. Kudrna got to AAA, and he deserved the promotion. He didn't pitch well, but he deserved the promotion from what he did at AA. So I think that played a part of it too. But I was a little bit surprised not to see Arande added, especially because they have a spot, because they're only at 39 right now, which is interesting. I mean, typically they want to max it out, but they didn't. I wonder why.
As we transition to that, the second part about who they did decline, Felix Arande being one of them, what do you make of them having a spot open? Is that, you think that's a sign that there's a deal, in the works, that they've got the framework and they're set up they're going to take on another guy that's going to have to go in the 40, and part of the deal will be dealing from outside the 40? I mean, what is that? Does that tip the hand a little bit?
Maybe, or maybe they really only thought 2 guys deserved it. Like, I think it's easy to say, well, why wouldn't they add everybody? But you start to, you add people and you risk losing them. Like, for example, Felix Arande and the Royals historically for the last, I don't even know, since 2010, 2009, somewhere in there, they did a really good job of knowing who was and wasn't going to get selected. They have not lost guys who we've talked on the air before. Oh, they can't. I don't want to lose that guy. He didn't get protected and blah blah blah, and then he doesn't get selected.
Yeah,
and
because
so I think,
but in the obvious answer, because they probably sucked. I mean, when the big league club was consistently as poor as it was because they didn't have talent. Like, they were the best of what the Royals had. They were the number 3 prospect for the Royals, or number 6 prospect for the Royals, which is like being, the tallest pygmy. Like,
sure,
hey,
that's totally fair.
Short,
But I also think that there were, and I can't think of an example, so I'm just totally riffing here. But I feel like there were guys who, like JJ Cooper he's the Rule 5 god basically for Baseball America. They projected Royals to go and they didn't go, and so I think the Royals did a really nice job. And I think that, so let's use Felix Arande. You put him on the 40-man roster, and you don't think he's going to get selected anyway. But now the 40-man's full, and you lose. You have to maybe you lose him at some point. Whereas if he's in the organization, you don't lose him. He's still part of the organization for the entire season. So I think that played a role in it. But there is a part of me that looks at that and goes, you have 1 roster spot available, and there were deserving players, I think, who they didn't select. Why? Especially, and we'll get to this too, there's some non-tender candidates. So they could have made a move early, right? Like, it's interesting that the Rule 5 deadline is Tuesday and the non-tender deadline is Friday, because sometimes you have to non-tender somebody to make the room for the guy you're adding. But yeah, it does raise an eyebrow at least. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard the same things. They're talking to everybody. Mm-hmm. This is not a quiet organization right now. They're very publicly looking for what they need.
They don't need Gavin Cross or Frank Mozzicato, or at least they're willing to live without him. I don't think either one of them is going to get taken. But what is the statement, Les, when two former first rounders made by the draft picks made by the previous administration, when they're non-tendered? What does that say to you?
It says to me that we're in a Royals generation where it's okay. You're going to produce, or just not going to happen just because you're a first rounder and they throw $1 million, $2 million, $5 million at you. You still have to perform. I mean, I was looking at Gavin Cross, and this breaks my heart because when they signed Gavin Cross and I saw his numbers out of Virginia Tech, I'm like, yes, this could be. It might take a while, but this could finally be our guy. And then it sunk. I mean, he had it in the last 2 years. He's had a massive amount of strikeouts, and he almost never walks. I mean, I think last year was 100 and I don't have the stats in front of me. I want to say 130 some strikeouts maybe, or somewhere around there, but 28 walks. I mean, that's like Mark Quinn-esque when you talk about not walking, and that's not an insult to Mark Quinn. He just never walked. So I think that's just the sign that, you know what, you're not ready. We're not going to give up those spots now because we want to win. We've got the players that we should win. We're not winning as much as we should. And so we are going to start being really, really serious and giving those spots to the people that can help us within a year or two.
Yeah, I think the other thing it says to me, David, is like, look, we know what the background was on Gavin Cross. It was a very Dayton Moore-esque background. He looked like he had similar personal beliefs to Dayton Moore. I'll just be blunt about it. And, you know, I remember Dayton once when I said, well, Adley Rutschman or Bobby Wood Jr., I put to him, I had somebody who'd been around the team for a long time, said, who do you think he's, you know, if Dayton Moore had the first pick, who do you think he'd take, Adley Rutschman or Bobby Wood Jr.? And the guy said to me, whoever goes to church more, with a straight face. And so I put that to Dayton, and Dayton, you know, said, you know, very, very, you know, we answered the question very thoughtfully, as he always did. You know, he's like, well, he said, listen, character and background matters. We certainly check that, but nothing trumps talent. Talent would always be the top one. He said that. Gavin Cross did not look like that. Now, if you looked at the rankings when Gavin Cross was drafted, it looked like, oh, no, this is about where he should go. But that's always a compilation of the scouting that, and you know, the guys that we talked to, JJ Cooper, Randy, and I not long ago. It's unbelievable the knowledge that they have and watching the players, and they are truly scouting-minded players. But you can't deny that, I'm sure, that when you start hearing that Team A is going to take a guy up at this spot, that starts to creep into what your rankings are. And I wonder if the Royals hadn't taken him there, where would he have gone? Maybe he goes in that spot, but the bottom line is that they got it wrong. Dayton Moore got it wrong. That staff got it wrong. Taking him there was wrong. And I think this is a statement, David, that they are, you know, now maybe that statement that Dayton Moore made, that talent trumps all, is going to be what carries them. To David's point, the fact that they put a first-round tag next to him, it's a lot easier when it's not your first-round pick. Like if we get to this point with Jack Caglione one day, then we'll have the real test of this with this new group. But it is a statement that just because you carry a pedigree, or you know, they invested some money in him, we've got better. We're willing to move on. And again, I don't think they're going to end up moving. I think they'll have him back, but it makes a statement.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is they're not going to lose him, right? Like that goes back to the point, which they do a good job of knowing that. And you're probably right. They're not going to lose him because he's not very good. I mean, he has sub 300 on base percentage. He was a lot better when he came back from an injury from like late June on. But still, it's only, what is that, 2 months of a minor league season, 2.5 months. It's not enough. It's not enough to go away from, you know, he was okay in 24, but he repeated the level as a ninth overall pick. I mean, it just doesn't, it speaks to the organization's willingness to do the right thing and not the thing that makes them look better. But again, also another pick. And I told you guys before we started that I've got a take. I'm going to tell you right now.
It's a hot take.
I think
spicy.
You're overplaying it. I believe that JJ Picollo was promoted general manager in 2022, but Dayton Moore was still there. Dayton Moore was moved to president, right? Is that the title he had, president, and JJ was vice president, general manager. Okay. Look at the 2022 draft that JJ was supposedly the general manager for. He has traded Caden Wallace. He's traded Mason Barnett. He's traded David Sandlin. He has not protected Gavin Cross. not protected Javi Vaz, who I think is part of that. I mean, he could have been protected too. I think he's a guy who's more likely than all of them to go because he can be a utility player who can steal a base, work a walk. It's all. I get the feeling that he's like, I don't want anything to do with this draft. Now he protected Zubac, so that totally ruins my point. But he has moved on from the 2022 draft pretty clearly. I mean, and look, Caden Wallace was traded for Hunter Harvey. That was a big move. David Sandlin was traded for John Schreiber. Not a big move, but it's John Schreiber's pitched some really big innings for 2 500+ teams, 1 playoff team. And who was the other one? Mason Barnett was traded. He was part of the Lucas Erceg trade. So these are not deals that you're like, we're just dumping this guy. But it seems pretty obvious that he's moving on from this draft. And like, I was in charge, but I wasn't in charge.
I think you undersold the point. I think it's a great point. Yeah. I mean, I had not connected those dots, and I
don't think it's a hot take. I think it's just a take.
I don't know. I think it's a hot observation. I'll say that. I mean, and I think
I'll take it.
There's too many data points there to say that there isn't something. Does anything on any of the other guys they declined? Does anything jump at you? Luca Tresh, Javi Vaz, anyone else that jumps at you?
I thought they might protect Tresh just to have a third catcher, and he's a guy who I think is kind of ready to be a backup catcher in the big leagues. I also don't think they needed to, but I thought that would have been a use for that one extra spot. Might tell you, hey, they're going to go out and get Luke Maley. Austin Nola, one of those guys they've gotten every year. They had, who's the big catcher they had, who's jumped around. He went with the Red Sox for, I can't think of his name now.
Is it Gallagher?
But no. They signed him late in spring training. I mean, they always sign these veteran guys. I feel like it's going to be, I feel like that's their plan now. That it's a small thing, but not protecting Tresh jumps out at me on that. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say on Mozzicato.
Brian O'Keefe?
No.
Luke Maley?
No, he's been with the Braves recently. I'm gonna figure this out probably at our break, but I think
I'm with you. I think that one shows that they like what they're doing catching wise. And
I think they like what they're
I mean, and Blake
sure.
Mitchell hitting a ball 116, 117 mile per hour exit velocity in Arizona, I think speaks to hopefully the power's back after he's recovering now from the hamate bone injury. But they don't. I think you're right. They don't need another catcher. And that's
Sandy Leon.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
They value catching. They draft catching at a high rate. They talk about how that's the thing. It's nice for them to finally have too much because they pour a lot of resources, a lot of picks into the catching for them to never ever do anything, and now they're finally getting some returns on it. So I do think that's a good sign for this team. We want to talk a little bit about just the drafting overall, why it was so bad for so long. Kris Bubic still being a major trade target for this team. We'll do it after you hear from our friends from Frontier Justice.
This episode of Kaufman Corner is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee's Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
This isn't just any burger run. This is a burger run for Whataburger Sweet and Spicy Bacon Burger. 2 fresh all-beef patties with melty cheese, grilled onions, crispy bacon, and sweet and spicy pepper sauce. One for you, one for him, and one for your unofficial roommate, Brad. Always order an extra. For Brad. The all-time favorite sweet and spicy bacon burger from Whataburger. Just like you like it.
By the way, I have a Brad at my house. So, grabbing an extra where doesn't everybody have the friend that's just a mooch that's always like, oh yeah, oh hey, you guys got food? Oh yeah, great, yeah, I'll take one. I got one of those guys. All right,
3-year-old.
yes, time to earn your keep, kid. Why did the Royals draft so poorly for so long? Les, when you look at it, I was looking with Mozzicato coming off. I was looking at just the war on, and it's not just because I was like, well, let me go look at the Brewers. Let me just randomly select some teams and see how good the baseball draft is. By far the biggest crapshoot of all the professional sports. It's really, really hard to get it right. So and that did calm me down a little bit when I saw that not every Brewer has a career WAR of 45, right? Like it's that is true. But so many of the picks are high picks, right? That's what I mean. It's not hard to figure out why it didn't work when you see Mozzicato and Gavin Cross just added to a list of all these names that just the Royals got nothing from. I mean, that's what killed that's why, frankly, Dayton Moore is not the general manager right now, Les.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I mean, I'm sure as baseball fans, we're all frustrated. And you're right, it is a crapshoot. So it's an interesting combination. I mean, how many years did we go on? I can go back and name so many first round pitchers that the Royals got back in my dinosaur days of getting drafted in the early 90s, where first round pitcher. Some of them didn't even get to AAA, and if they did, it wasn't very long. So I don't know if it's a combination of reading the analytics wrong or a combination of the wrong people in the position, that they're just not viewing talent the right way. But when you have that string, it really is time. I mean, if you think about it, when you've got a guy in the big leagues that is not doing their job over and over and over again on normal teams, the teams that win, then they're going to be shipped out, or they're going to be shipped to the bench. And so there came a time, I think, where there's certain people that just can't be in those positions anymore because we're just not drafting well. So maybe the safe answer, because I don't know the answer, is it is a crapshoot. Maybe the wrong people are looking at the wrong things and we keep getting it wrong. But this isn't just about signing a corner outfielder. We've got to start getting the draft right, and we're spending millions of dollars on first round picks, and they're not panning out. Not close. I mean, not at all. Like AA not doing well. So there definitely has to be a change, and I can't pinpoint it, but I think it's a combination.
Yeah, David, what do you see overall connecting the dots?
Well, I think there are multiple things at play. One, I think they targeted the wrong players. I mean, you look at the 2017 draft. Nick Prado didn't. I mean, that the type of player he was not necessarily the wrong guy, but he didn't fit. Right. MJ Melendez has not worked out very well. I think that there is some level of, I think 2020 messed up a lot of prospects. I do. I don't think that's the reason. I'm not saying that's reason 1, 2, 3. It's probably like reason 37. But it's part of that too, for a lot of those guys who didn't have a season. But the other side of that, I will always wonder, and I will never know the answer. Were they bad at drafting, or were they bad at developing, or both? It's probably both. Let's be real. But the development system was terrible for years, and they started to turn some things over in 2019, 2020. Well, look at the 2019 draft. You got Witt, you got Pasquantino. Michael Massey has shown flashes. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but he was good enough to hit leadoff on a playoff team. And that part of that because the playoff team had some offensive struggles, but he hit leadoff in the playoffs, and you drafted him in 2019. 2020 was terrible, kind of whatever for everybody. 21, we can talk about that in a minute. But then you start to get into these last couple of drafts. People have really liked them quite a bit. 22, we've talked about. I think JJ's distancing himself. But 23, I mean, Blake Mitchell is a top prospect. Teams still like him. Carson Rockefeller, is that how he says it? I got to remember that. He started to come on a little bit. They've been able to move a couple guys like Jared Dickey was part of the Urseg trade, I believe. 24, you look at the Caglione already in the big leagues. David Shields is drawing rave reviews. I mean, they're doing some much better things. Also, different people in place at the top of the draft. So it's funny because they changed the development staff and the draft staff at the same time, which means you can't test the variable. But I think the development is a big part of it too. And that to me, you're going to draft talented players. Like, these guys are good baseball players generally. it's really about developing them
That's a great
properly.
point.
Picking the guy who fits with your team. Like, you talk about Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs, right? A lot of people say if he goes to a different situation, he's a bust. Maybe, but he went to the best situation. They picked the guy who they put him in the best spot. The Royals have to pick guys who work with their development team, and I think they're doing a better job of that.
Yeah, it seems to be meshing a little bit better right now for sure. Kris Bubic continues to be the guy that is discussed all the time. Jeff Passan that says in his column, where he has a nice long column going through kind of all of the offseason markets, that he doesn't think the Royals are going to get the price that they want for Kris Bubic. What should the value be of a guy coming back like this, Les? I mean, I think the Royals should want a lot. I understand if a team's want to discount it and maybe you got to, we've talked about it before, maybe you got to jerry rig things by throwing a prospect in there to make it work, or maybe it needs to be part of a, multiplayer for multiplayer deal, just so it's not all riding on Kris Bubic. The other team has other names that they could, if Bubic were to not be ready. But Kris Bubic's upside is really good. Like, they should not be giving Kris Bubic away. I like that his name is being discussed because I don't want to see him go, but I also don't want to see them put a whole bunch of money into a guy that's been this brittle. He's the best chip to move right now, and I think it's good that his name's still being talked about.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really hard to assess his value because on the left side, that pendulum that swings, the pendulum swings that side, it just hammers into the wall because he had a low ERA. He was an all-star. It was his breakthrough season. This is his walk year coming up, and so there's leverage there. And I mean, there's so much involved on the good side of Kris Bubic, but then on the other side, coming off of Tommy John and big league teams. I mean, we saw in the Ward trade that, I mean, the Angels were bad, and so they didn't mind a guy that was hurt last year because they know that the year before that, I think it was like 13-4 or something like that. It was just dealing with the Orioles, and so that was a good trade for them. Interestingly enough, it was a 1-for-1, which that surprised me a little bit. But I think you're right with Bubic that because you can't really assess his value, I don't know that a team is going to just take Bubic straight up for one guy or even offer two guys just for Bubic, because there's just too much involved. That, well, what if the rotator cuff strain was just a strain, but then it leads to something else because inflamed ligaments, and I'm not a doctor, but I've been hurt enough to understand that if it stays inflamed and if it stays chronic, eventually down the road, it's probably going to break down fully. And so teams have to protect themselves, probably going to be a package deal. However, I'm fine if they trade Kris Bubic in a package deal to get the outfielder that we need, because for me, that's the number one. So that's great.
Yeah. Like the name, they like that we're still hearing Bubic's name around, or do you think that probably Jeff Passan's hearing that they've taken a lap around the league and nobody's biting on what they're asking for, and that's why he's putting that out there?
I mean, it's very possible that that's the case right now. It's November 20th.
Good point.
Teams start to get desperate. When you have every free agent still out there, basically, I mean, Imanaga took the qualifying offer, so he's not out there anymore. But when you've got every single guy you may be targeted that you only have to give up money for still out there, why would you pay a high price for a guy who spent the last 2.5 months on the IL? But you get to mid-January and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, it's Anthony DeSclafani or Kris Bubic. You might trade for Kris Bubic.
Yeah.
And so I like that they're talking about him. And if they trade him, great. If they don't trade him, great. They've got Kris Bubic, and maybe in the bullpen too, where I think they could use him. But the fact that they're talking about him means that they're willing to move him, and maybe it just comes later.
Can I point out that they could trade Kris Bubic for prospects, right? Like, we know that they're targeting an everyday left fielder. Maybe that comes with a different deal. They've got other pieces that they could trade. Maybe Blake Mitchell goes for the everyday outfielder and Kris Bubic goes, for farm system pieces, outfielders in A ball and double A, so that you're not sitting here looking at the outfield situation you have right now. Like, I do want to be, and I hope the Royals are open to that. And I'm sure they are open to that, the way they're wheeling and dealing these days. But, if Kris Bubic would be dealt and they don't get an outfielder, it doesn't mean that an outfielder isn't coming with a deal, on down the road. We know that outfielder won't be Taylor Ward. David, I'm going to ask you this first. Grayson Rodriguez is who they traded for him. What's the comp? What's the comparable? To me, it's Noah Cameron is what you're going to have to give to be topping that trade, right? Presumably you'd have to top it. Did the Royals miss the boat on not jumping in on Taylor Ward?
No, I don't think so. I don't know that there is a comp. I think you're probably right. Noah Cameron's what they would have had to do. And I wouldn't have traded.
You agree
Noah
that
Cameron
tops the Grayson Rodriguez offer?
Yes, I think it does. The issue with the Ward deal is it's weird. And so it's hard to match it up. Like what are the Orioles doing? Or what do the Orioles know? And that it's one of those two questions. I think there's at least a decent chance that Grayson Rodriguez's elbow is filled with broken toothpicks and marshmallows, and he's just useless. I don't know. It's odd to trade that for 1 year of a good, not great outfielder. That kind of upside, but at the same time, he's missed a year and a half. So what is Grayson Rodriguez? The Orioles know best, and they also are probably the most injury risk averse franchise out there. I think they still are, maybe a little less than they used to be, but there have been multiple signings that were derailed by failed physicals for the Orioles that don't happen with other teams. So maybe that's all it is. But I don't know that the Royals have a real comp for Grayson Rodriguez because they don't have a top of the rotation type starter with years of control, with that kind of injury history. Like there's just so much back and forth on Grayson Rodriguez. I'm not sure that the Angels would have done anything with the Royals.
I look at the control, Les, the fact that, there's about 4 years of control with him and 6 years of control with Noah Cameron. That's why I say you would be topping it and maybe you got to get something back. But if control is what they wanted, Cameron's the guy. They're not doing it for Bubic, right? They seem to be looking for a guy that they've got multiple years. Are you okay that Noah Cameron didn't go in this deal?
I'm okay because it's Noah Cameron, because he had a great year. I mean, obviously, but if you're looking strictly on the business side, not fandom, not anything, there's a little bit. I mean, it makes you hesitant about Noah Cameron because of the health situation of Kris Bubic. If Kris Bubic was healthy, I would be clamoring like, what are we doing? Why are we not putting Noah Cameron in the deal? We can get so much for him, and we need something here. So, the weird thing is to me, this all comes down to the health of Kris Bubic. It affects how you trade. It affects who you trade. It affects what you want to do. And if you're willing to do that anyway, unfortunately, you're gonna tap into some prospects that you have. It's a better minor league system, but it's not a deep minor league system like it used to be. And so, I could go an hour on why I want to see Jarren Duran in a Royals uniform, but I won't go that route because of what we'd have to give up. I don't think it's doable. But
well, what do you think? I mean, that's obviously one of the targets. We can start to move that direction. Like, what do you think it would take to get? I mean, Cameron for Duran, would you be okay with that?
Oh, of course I would be okay with that, but there's no way that Boston's going to do that because they're cash rich. They want more than that, and they need some pitching. They don't need outfielders. They need pitching, and they know that the Royals need that, and so they're going to milk the power they have, the leverage they have in that trade if the Royals wanted him. So they're going to have to give a lot more than just a 1-for-1 with Noah Cameron and Jarren Duran.
What do you think, David? Who are the top trade targets we should be talking about right now? I know you, by the way, I'll encourage people to go check out Inside the Crown because I know you've got a detailed list. If people want to see the breakdown on it, make sure you check out what David's written. But top targets on there.
I mean, there are a lot, obviously. I wrote a lot about him. Tyler Soderstrom is one guy who is super interesting to me because the A's seem to be open to moving him, which I don't fully understand why, but whatever, that's fine. They could use some pitching. The Royals have some pitching. I don't know if they'd love Noah Cameron in that ballpark, but it's only 2 years. He's a guy, he moved from catcher to first and then first to left and became this defensive whiz. He was a Gold Glove finalist and deserved it. 10 defensive run saves, 5 outs above average. If he's available, you package something Noah Cameron and Blake Mitchell, and I mean, I would just keep going ands on Tyler Soderstrom. I mean, I guess there's a limit, but that's a target I think that makes a ton of sense for the Royals. I don't know how well they match up because I think the pitchers the Royals would be willing to move may be a terrible fit in that ballpark. I don't know.
What ballpark?
Well, the ballpark they're in right now, at least. That's
who is
6 feet down the left
terrible
field
fit
line.
in that thing, but
strikeout. A guy who strikes out 30% of batters is the one they have to go with. Like that's the only guy who's going to succeed there regularly. But that's a fair point. But I just think that if you look at the list, Soderstrom's a guy where like I think Duran makes a lot of sense. Wilyer Abreu is a guy I've loved for a while. Great defense, hits for power, all that. Brendan Donovan. I think Brendan Donovan, and he makes sense for 26 other teams. So that's part of the problem. But if you go get Brandon Donovan first, you say, okay, we've got our second baseman or left fielder because he can do both, and he can actually do both, not like the guys the Royals are trying to have do both. And you can say, okay, we'll go get a second baseman or we'll go get a left fielder. And that's that, because you've got the guy who can fit in either. I think he fits at the top of the lineup. I think you go left, right with Donovan Witt. That makes a lot of sense to me. It'll be costly because, again, every team can use Brendan Donovan because he can do things. But there are some guys, they want to go second. Brandon Lau, you want to get him for second base? Great. Let him hit 20 home runs. He won't get on base a ton, but he can hit between Garcia and Salvi. I love that too. There are a lot of options out there for the Royals. They just got to find that right fit. And it's going to come, we've talked about this a million times, from trading pitching.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it has to be. Any names that tickle your fancy? I like. Should we be talking about a right-handed bat last? I mean, do they need to get specific on what they need, because they really struggled against left-handed pitching last year, and they could really use another right-handed bat in the lineup? Do we need to cross off anyone whose bat's left-handed?
I don't think you necessarily cross it off depending. I mean, again, I'm talking about Jarren Duran, who's a left-handed hitter, so I would go completely.
I think so is Brendan Donovan, right? I mean, isn't he left-handed?
Yeah.
I would get amnesia in a heartbeat worrying about right-handed batters if we could get somebody like that. But again, we struggle against lefties. I mean, I know that Garcia from Texas is a name that pops up. I feel a little bit like we'd be settling a little bit. I mean, I know he can hit some home runs and all that, but I feel like he's past the peak of what he can do. Offensively, defensively, he can still play a little bit, which is great. So I wouldn't like, for someone like him, I wouldn't say, oh, that's horrible, and I'm disappointed. But I would feel like we're leaking back into the category of, okay, we've been doing this for a lot of years and it just doesn't seem to work long term. So if it comes to really getting that outfielder we need, I know we struggled against lefties, but I will take a left-hander that can produce. I'm fine with that. And then maybe with your new hitting coach team, that you start working on a full program of how we're going to improve against left-handed hitters.
Can I throw a name at you that is right-handed? No one is talking about connecting to the Royals. It would be an atypical type deal, but it certainly would fit the kind of player that the Royals have coveted in the past. What would you think if Byron Buxton was made available and you say we're going to love it? We're going to save your legs. We're going to play you in left field. You'll play some center, but we're going to try to, we want your bat, right? Like that's what we want. And, the Twins are having a fire sale. I bring it up just because their ownership, is the hot mess that it is. They say they're not selling the team. It's not for sale anymore. My ass. You put that for sale sign up there, it doesn't come out of the front yard. You're clearly looking to cash in. And they strip that thing down, and this is more payroll they could dump. And this is the kind of player, we hear JJ say all the time, well, we've got our payroll, but, John's open. If we go to him and say, hey, this makes sense, this would be an easy sell, I think, to John Sherman. Could we see
not even that much money?
Yeah, Fernando Tatis is the name everybody talks about in those terms. I think that's too much money to ask this organization to take on. But Buxton, to your point, David, you said not even that much money. You'd be open to this.
Yeah, in a heartbeat. I don't know if the Twins would do it, but you go get Byron Buxton, absolutely. I mean, look, the guy the last 2 years, he doesn't play a lot. 126 games is the second most in his career. He played it in 25. Now, some guys do figure it out how to stay on the field later in their career. It's weird that the older player stays on the field more, but they learn how to preserve energy and all that. But, I mean, 550 slugging percentage. He's been over 500. I'm looking right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of the last 7 years. Yes, 100%. He plays great center field defense, and you're right. Save his legs, put him in left or right. I don't care. DH him some, great. Yes, 100%. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if you have to face somebody you don't want to face for 6 years because you traded him for Byron Buxton. You got better, a lot better.
Yeah, and I mean, traditionally you don't make trades within the division, but it's not, traditionally you're not just dumping what the Twins dumped. I mean, to me, so like I just feel like at some point they're going to go for the guy. Like, I don't want to see them. I want to see him get somebody that we know should play every single day, right? Like, is not, we're talking platoon partner with, that's, and to me, I look for like, who could come from off the radar to get this done? I think he'd be a guy. Let's finish with the team awards. Bobby Witt Jr., Player of the Year. Noah Cameron, Pitcher of the Year, Special Achievement Award. Michael Garcia. I mean, duh. I mean, is there? But what jumps at you, David, with those awards?
They got to make a new award for the Player of the Year because nobody's ever going to win it. It's the National League MVP. Like, it's the Shohei Ohtani Award, and the MVP is what they got to do. And the Royals, they got to make the Bobby Witt Jr. Player of the Year goes to Bobby Witt Jr. just every year. It's because it's too bad. Nobody else is ever going to be the Player of the Year for the Royals until Bobby Witt leaves. But yeah, pretty easy. I think Kris Bubic probably would have been the Pitcher of the Year if he had stayed healthy all season, but he didn't. Yeah, they had some candidates, which they didn't used to have. I mean, who was it? Who won it was like 2005. Was that Mark Redmond? It was Mark Redmond All-Star year. I can't remember if he won the award, but like,
oh God,
it's so nice to actually have candidates for these awards. And
well, I mean, isn't that what the Joe Burke Special Achievement?
Yeah, it basically is. That's what it's become. Yeah.
I looked up. I was like, I just Googled, like, okay, what is that? What is the official? An unsung player who contributes beyond expectations or has an outstanding season deserving of recognition. I don't know how long this has been around, but it sounds like it might have been the George Brett Award. Like back when George would win it every year.
A while.
But listen, I will say this, Les. Those are guys that are really good players, right?
Yeah.
Had really good seasons. To David's point, like, it is nice to see. It's fine. Bobby Witt Jr. should win this a lot, but it also means if somebody else does win it, they're really good. But it's nice to not be phoning up somebody into, well, we have this award. Like in years past, I felt like just don't give the award out. There's nobody that deserves this award. These are all deserving guys.
Yeah, it's a good position to be in, and it's good for Michael Garcia because if they didn't have that Special Achievement Award, whoever would be good enough to win the Special Achievement Award, if it doesn't exist, they're continuing, like David said, to get completely drowned out by Bobby Witt Jr.'s greatness. I mean, so to have an award, first of all, it's named after somebody, Joe Burke, and second of all, it does honor somebody else that had a fantastic season that most likely is going to be second fiddle to the statistics that Bobby Witt Jr. puts together. So I think it's great.
Yeah. Look, Michael Garcia may challenge Bobby Witt Jr. for it one day, but
not today.
No, not today.
But you're right. If he does, incredible year by Michael Garcia.
But probably what'll happen is Bobby will have a year where he misses 30, 40 games with an injury or something, right, and then somebody else will win it with that. That's the most likely reason. Let's knock on wood that's never the case. But if Bobby plays all the games and somebody else wins it, that's impressive. And I think we can also feel good that the Pitcher of the Year right now, the way they're developing pitching, is going to be legit. Mm-hmm. And that has been a problem. Like, I can't stress to you how frustrating it was to read, have Brad Keller's name be on one of the lists of targets for free agents and them talking about how good he is as a reliever and, all this. And I'm like, and then he was in Kansas City for years and they never got to that because they could not solve the starting pitching riddle. So it didn't matter that he was struggling. He had to go back out there because there was nobody else to go to. And, now I think we're in such a better position as Royals fans to watch a team that is going to pump quality pitching into this team. I cannot stress. I mean, it sucks because I like Brad Keller, the guy. I always wanted it to work out for him in Kansas City. I'm thrilled that his career is taking off. He's going to get a big payday. He pitched in the postseason. All that's great. But like Noah Cameron, straight out of the minors, Pitcher of the Year with a sub-3 ERA. That is a really good sign for this ball club. I think it's important to remember. All right, listen, it's important for you to support our great sponsors. If you love the Kaufman Corner podcast, support our great sponsors like our friends at Frontier Justice, Lee Summit, Missouri, KCK, Jenks, Oklahoma. You might see less there, whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro. You'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Find them online at frontier-justice.com. Our friends at Whataburger, remember, they're open 24 hours a day. That's a lifesaver for me if you're coming home late. I know the Whataburger, when I'm leaving the ballpark late, is always a nice spot. They serve breakfast 11 p to 11 a as well. My favorite's the patty melt. Go check it out at your neighborhood Whataburger and our friends at Greenlight. 15 locations in Missouri and more on the way. Greenlight is your go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you saw Greenlight right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. For David Lesky from Inside the Crown, for Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner.